right, Scott, let's go. We're going south of the circle. Scott, you and I are checking out a unique, dude, this is very unique. I'm gonna start it right then and there. It is a unique, I can't even call it a point and click adventure game, but that's kind of in the same kind of vein as where I'm heading with this game. 11-Bit Studios is back. And when the minute I saw 11-Bit Studios, I was like, yo, I need in. I gotta get my hands on this game. I love 11-Bit Studios. And then you get into South of the Circle, which is a very unique art direction, simplistic, very simplistic, but yet still kind of grabbed me a little bit, right? And then the story starts, and then you kind of fall apart from there, man. You literally hold like a couple buttons down, and then that was it. There's a bit of mystery and intrigue, but at the same time, there's just a lot of me falling asleep trying to play the game, dude. I had a hard time staying awake. Yeah, how'd you make out here?
Well, it is a hugely narrative-driven thing. It's almost like a pick-your-own-adventure novel that way.
Sure.
Except the options are a lot more limited. But there is a lot of choice into how you can interact with different characters. So, for example, there's the one woman you spend a lot of time with. I'm glowing. Yeah. But there's a few other characters that you meet along the way, some that give you some hard time, and I am extremely negative to them. And that kind of gives me some interesting character here because, well, the character is kind of what the story's about. But there's a bit of an issue there because as you're getting into the game, the first couple hours, you're thinking, well, why do I like these characters? Why do I care? Why do I dislike these characters? It just... The story kind of picks up out of nowhere, and you're spent doing a lot of flashbacks, kind of learning about who you are. But I'm not exactly sure why. It's just kind of to service the story. But so let me explain that because there's two stories kind of happening simultaneously.
Yeah, sure.
This crash, or rather, you put the phone or the plane down because your friend in the pilot's seat is having a real hard issue with his leg. So you settle down and you're trying to wander through this giant winterland to get to a base to call for help, presumably. But that is just one small part of the story because as you move through the different areas on your way, you're flashing back to years past, and you're doing that more frequently than you are in the South of the Circle. It's really interesting that way.
It does kind of flip back and forth a lot, right? And often when some of these games they do it, they don't do it well. I honestly kind of feel the South of the Circle does. It has that mystery and intrigue that will have you going, oh, I just flipped over to the past, but yeah, I'm questioning what's going on over here. And then you roll into the past, figure out what's happening in there, and then as you start to kind of almost pull you in that way, and then flips you back to the present. So it's a lot of back and forth, but it's
they pull
so
a lot
slow.
of political. There's a lot of political leaning in it.
There's a ton of
Cold War
politics.
era.
Yeah,
it's Cold War era, so that makes a lot of sense. But it kind of explores. Well, there's communist kind of protests happening in your country. That was a thing that was very confusing to me. Everybody has what sounds to me to be an American accent, but I think you're British, and you're speaking with a woman that's Scottish. I think a Scottish woman, it's impossible to suppress that accent. And yet there's not much accent. I can understand her, and that's markedly different than my own grandmother.
There's a lot of just, dude, I found it just so dull at the end of the day for me to really go through. And I love the point and click adventure where it's very narrative driven, very story driven. Even a walking sim like Firewatch is an incredible way of pushing the narrative and pushing your character forward. Right from the minute the game started, dude, it hits and you got a prompt and then you hold the button down. And I felt like I did that forever. And then it went again and again and again and again. I'm like, there is no kind of that hook, right? There's not sinking his claws into me and pulling me into the game. I kind of felt like I got pushed out of the plane, and it just wasn't enough for me to really want to pursue the story and figure out what is going on. The politics are very heavily focused here. Your guy's a writer and he's writing about the clouds, but there's a lot more to that aspect of what he's building towards, right? And there's a lot there's this mystery that I really want to get into, but man, I can't get pulled into it. The art style is so simplistic, almost to the point where it's like too simplistic for me. And
yeah,
right?
I had
Did
a
you
bit
feel
of an
that too?
issue there. I had a bit of an issue there too, technically speaking. The art style it reminds me almost of Endling, but not as refined.
Yeah.
Endling is much higher detail, and this game is more simplified, almost as if it's a cartoon character moving around. But
Yeah.
what I noticed was a lot of clipping issues. Anytime the characters
Really?
are picking up books, tea kettles, whatever it is, it's just everything's really clippy and going right through their hands. And there was a couple times where I got held up kind of on invisible walls because it is very narrow in where you can move. So
Almost like tank controls too.
Yeah, but it kind of seems strange to me that if it is such a reduced play area, why am I having clipping issues? It seems like a lot less to fix up.
For sure. Well, Scott, we went south of the circle for this one. What are you scoring this game?
You know, I've had a good time, and I think we have a bit of a different opinion on this. It is quite slow. It's quite dry, so I can understand why that wouldn't rub people the right way. But if you get into it, if you are able to crack, this story is not very long, but it is very detailed, and there's some heavy subjects along the way. So I appreciated what this game brought, but again, it's not for everybody. I think this is about a 6.5. It does some things well, but it falls short in others.
I think it does fall short in just kind of pulling everybody in. This game isn't going to be for everybody. It is going to be for some. There is a unique art style that I can appreciate. The story has some intrigue to it that I wanted to understand more, but it just fell a little flat on its face for me and so dry that it was just so hard and almost impossible to get into. For me, I'm just a little bit lower with a 6.
You know what I'm gonna say?